Hello. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, depending on where you're joining us from. I see a few participants rolling in here. While they do, how are we doing? Anna, Christina, where in the world are you joining us from today?
Hi.
Doing well.
Yeah, doing great.
Go ahead, Anna.
I'm calling in from Boston today. We have a nice cloudy, sunny day here.
Sounds very similar to Montreal, where I am currently based and our Canadian headquarters is. How about you, Christina?
Yeah, I'm calling in from Chicago, which is also where Demi is based and where our service is primarily offered.
Great. Wow. We've got a good spread across the continent. Just giving folks a few minutes to roll in and we'll get started. I know we're coming out of the lunch hour, but we should get started in about a minute or two if that works for everyone. While we wait for a few more folks to roll in, if any of the attendees want to pop in the chat where you're joining us from, what city, what company, feel free to. We are all here to learn and would love to get to know a bit more about everyone participating. Hello, Katrina from IBM in Warrington, England. Later in the day for you. Thanks so much for making the time, Katrina. It looks like we are pretty much, I think, in a good place to get us started here today. So for everyone joining, hello and welcome. I'm Eliza Datar, Senior Client Success Manager at Alvéole, and we are super excited to have you all joining us today. Whether you're tuning in from your desk between meetings or maybe even from one of your buildings, thank you for taking the time to be a part of this important conversation around nature-based solutions in commercial real estate. So at its core, nature-based solutions use natural systems like pollination, composting, or food production alongside the built environment to tackle challenges like climate change, biodiversity loss, and urban resilience in a way that's cost-effective, sustainable, and regenerative. At Alvéole, we support CRE teams by leveraging the power of pollinators to meet tenant engagement, ESG, and sustainability goals. But why commercial real estate? So we know that the built environment accounts for over 30% of global biodiversity loss, which means the real estate industry is uniquely positioned to lead the way in reversing some of the most critical environmental challenges of our time. We know that as owners and operators joining us today, you're being asked to deliver on a lot, tenant satisfaction, sustainability goals, certification targets, and of course, bottom line impact. And that's why today is all about practical, proven solutions, not just buzzwords. You'll walk away with ideas you can implement on site that are already delivering real value in buildings like yours. So I'm super thrilled to be joined by two incredible leaders in this space. We have Anna Much, Director of Business Development at Green City Growers, works with CRE teams to turn underused spaces into vibrant rooftop farms. Her work brings food production, community interaction, and ESG objectives together through programs like on-site farmers markets and biophilic design. We also have the wonderful Christina Chu, co-founder of Demi Composting, who is on a mission to make organics recycling simple, impactful for commercial buildings. With a background in sustainability consulting and community building, Christina helps property teams implement composting programs that reduce waste, engage tenants, and support green building certifications. So in the next 30 minutes, we'll dive into how rooftop gardens, composting, and beekeeping are not just feel-good initiatives, they are strategic tools that drive tenant engagement and ESG. If you have any questions throughout the conversation, don't be shy. We are all here to learn, so please do drop them in the chat. We'll do our best to answer them at the end of the discussion. With that, let's get started with our first question around tenant engagement that drives retention. So what's the business case for these types of nature-based programs and amenities? How do gardens, composting, and beekeeping initiatives translate into higher tenant satisfaction or retention? Anna, maybe I'll ask you to lead the charge on this one. And before you answer the question, perhaps if you'd like to share a bit more about what Green City Growers does as well.
Yeah. First off, thank you so much for inviting me to be a part of this very exciting conversation today. Green City Growers is a Boston-based urban farming company that provides urban farm solutions to all kinds of customers beyond just commercial real estate. And one clarification, we actually do much more than rooftop farms. We also do ground level raised beds, indoor hydroponic systems, and in addition with rooftop and in-ground farms as well. So we are really excited to participate in this conversation. And to answer to your question, as we all know, commercial real estate is still navigating a very real post-pandemic shift in how people are interacting with their workplace. Considering that, building a strong tenant engagement strategy is no longer a nice to have, but actually a necessity. And that's because property managers aren't just competing on price and location anymore, but also the experience that their building is providing. In addition to that, there is growing data that shows how much tenants and employees care about sustainability. In a recent study that I found, it said that 70% of US workers want their company to operate in a sustainable fashion. So when you combine that with the fact that there's this overall kind of loss of community, another recent survey I found from Gallup showed that 30% of Americans, only 30% of Americans feel a deep connection to their communities. You see this opportunities for commercial properties to come in and build and bridge this gap. Because people are looking for connection and they're looking for meaning and something real in the places that they're spending their time. And for many people, that's their office. And that is where urban farming and nature-based solutions come in. At Green City Growers, we are working with property managers to figure out what their goals are, what their unique challenges are, to come up with a customized solution that is tailored to their needs. We come up with the design, then we send a team out to take care of the installation. And then from there, we're providing consistent maintenance so that the gardens always look inspiring and so that it's not yet another headache for facilities teams to deal with. In tandem with this maintenance, we're providing an ongoing hands-on program for all building tenants and employees to participate in. So it becomes this really fun and unique way for people to come together and share the experience of growing and harvesting food, which really then builds that connection that so many employees are looking for. We actually surveyed our participants in our commercial real estate garden programs last summer and found that 68% of our participants said that they made new social connections. 90% said that they gained new knowledge on plants and gardening, and 75% said that it strengthened their connection to the community at the office. So all of these things that that we're looking for. And I'll also just mention that even for people who aren't participating, they're still getting so much value just by having this on their campus that they can see and interact with, which goes along with all of the emphasis on biophilic design. So in summary, when employees feel connected and valued, they're more likely to stay at their places of work. So tenants are looking for properties that are providing the values and well-being that they're looking for in their workspaces. So having a nature-based solution is a cost-effective and effective way to improve retention and differentiate your space, which is really important in today's competitive leasing market.
Absolutely. I think that sounds similar to a lot of the conversations that we at Alvéole have here every day with property management and leasing teams, knowing that tenants are increasingly valuing purpose-driven amenities and asking, what are you folks doing here for sustainability and for well-being of the tenants? So that really resonates. Thank you for sharing that, Anna. Christina, maybe you can jump in here with a brief introduction to Demi Composting, and also address what is the business case for Demi and how does composting translate into higher tenant satisfaction?
Yes, absolutely. Thank you so much, Eliza, for having me and the whole Alvéole team. Really excited to be here and to be chatting with you and Anna about these topics. As you mentioned, I'm Christina. I'm the co-founder of Demi. Demi is a smart tech-enabled composting system designed specifically for multifamily and commercial buildings, really making it easy and engaging for tenants to recycle their food scraps. Your question around engagement that leads to retention and how you build that business case. I think composting at the surface may not seem like the most flashy amenity, but it consistently ranks as one of the most appreciated. From our own user surveys, we've had a 9 out of 10 user satisfaction rating. 91% of users would be disappointed if their building no longer offered Demi, and 85% ranked Demi as a top amenity in the building. And then there are also industry studies from organizations like Greystar and Grace Hill that show that composting can help actually drive rent premiums anywhere from $16 to $64 in multifamily buildings. And that 3% of renters actually wouldn't rent from a building if it didn't have a composting solution. So that's where you see some of those ROI levers come into play. And that data is really reinforced with the experiences that we've had in buildings that we've partnered with. We've had property managers forward us emails that they receive from tenants about how much they love the service, or that Demi is being specifically called out by tenants as kind of like a must-keep amenity. So I think even though it feels like it can take a while to calculate the ROI on paper, our impact to tenant retention feels very salient with these real life experiences that we and also the property teams that we work with have had. And then also from a property team perspective, it's incredibly low lift. We handle the maintenance, tech support, education. So the on-site team really can get all of the credit without really any of the operational headache. And kind of what Anna mentioned, ultimately, I think it's about showing tenants that your building is full and forward-looking and kind of in tune with the way that people want to live and work. And I think that always pays dividends in the end.
Amazing. Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. And to maybe speak to as well from the Alvéole perspective and urban beekeeping as a nature-based amenity. It's also going to help our clients really differentiate in competitive markets. So, similar to what you just said, beekeeping is also a low cost but high impact amenity. Like Demi are going to help you set your property apart and make this a unique differentiator for your portfolio. Things like the custom honey jars we provide, rooftop photos, storytelling assets become tools for leasing, marketing, and essentially tenant retention as well. So really by stronger brand identity to your property, hopefully that's going to lead to increased tenant stickiness. So really appreciate both of your insight there. Moving on to the next question. I can't believe we're already at the 15-minute mark. Marketing and sustainability, how we make ESG visible and tangible. We know that sustainability often happens behind the scenes, whether it's composting, energy management, etc. How do each of your solutions help make sustainability visible to tenants and stakeholders. Anna, maybe you can kick us off again there.
Thank you. I'm going to try to keep this answer shorter. It goes without saying that all sustainability efforts are valuable, whether they're behind the scenes or out in the open. But we also know that if it's something that people can't see, that they're going to have a much harder time connecting with it. So that's where urban farms and all of our nature-based solutions are great, because they really make it visible, tangible, and even emotional. You would be surprised how attached some people can get to the vegetable plants that are growing in the garden, and I'm sure that's no different for our honeybees as well. So yeah, it's a great way to not only just tell people that you're being sustainable, but also demonstrate it, because as we know, actions speak louder than words. And the beauty of all of these solutions is that there's something living. There's something that you can smell, feel, and even in urban farming instance, and with honey, you can taste it. So it provides this really unique experience for employees to get involved and play a role in your ESG efforts, which just is meaningful to a lot of people. And to help market this so we can show employees we want it to be something that people can engage with, we're really being selective with where it's being located so that it's placed in an area where there's high traffic for both your existing employees to see, but also for people who are touring, prospective tenants, to see that this is something they're associating now with your building. We provide a lot of marketing support as well, so that you can spread the awareness about the program to all of your tenants and employees. We're providing marketing flyers, digital and print. We have beautiful signage that we put by the gardens or inside an office to educate about the program. We're providing weekly reports that translates into really great content that you can push through onto social media. And then most excitingly of all, we're also growing vegetables that people can eat. And this is, something that participants are taking home with them, but then there's usually leftovers that we're bringing into a lobby. So it's this really physical demonstration of like, look at what we're doing with our office space here.
Makes total sense, and really highlights some interesting points there. As you were speaking, it sparked a memory of a conversation that I had with a property manager who was in the midst of pursuing their LEED recertification. And for him, what he shared was, they have the solar panels and the EV chargers in place, but as human beings, ultimately it's easier to develop a meaningful connection to something like an organic honeybee hive or, a garden than a solar panel or, LED lights. And not to mention that it's also much cheaper than something like solar panels. But really appreciate your insights there, Anna. Christina, could you maybe share how Demi makes sustainability visible to tenants and stakeholders?
Yes, absolutely. This has been a huge area of focus for us, because I think composting is probably one of the most tangible forms of sustainability that tenants can actually contribute to. But in multifamily or commercial office buildings, it's often hidden in a basement bin if it's happening at all. So for us, we've really focused on creating a system that's clean, odor-free, and really sleek, that can bring composting front and center into high traffic visible areas like lobbies or next to mail rooms. So it really becomes part of the daily tenant experience. And I think that visibility creates opportunities for education and participation, so that tenants aren't just being told that composting is happening in the building, they can actively contribute to it. Particularly on the commercial office side, we've seen property teams use our program as a way to engage their corporate tenants around their own ESG goals. For example, by offering suite level signage, diversion stats by tenant, or building-wide waste challenges. It becomes not just a tool for operations, but also for tenant engagement teams, helping property managers support the sustainability priorities of their tenants in a very tangible way.
Totally. I think composting is in some ways even more behind the scenes than something like beekeeping or rooftop gardens. So I totally appreciate how your team has gotten really creative and innovative when it comes to how we make sustainability visible through this amazing initiative. To speak to the alveole side of things real quickly, but something like a hive already is quite a visible and powerful physical representation of your building's commitment to sustainability. But in addition to the hive and the beekeeping, we also provide 100 jars of honey from that very hive, super hyper local. You know, we have the educational events and workshops that we facilitate for the tenants. And even things like, you know, the honey jars are great for talking point for leasing tours and being able to really stand out and leave an impression when folks are considering your building as their next space. Conscious of time, we have one last question before we open it up to the audience here. Let's talk a bit about aligning with green building certifications. So the GRESB, the LEEDs, the WELLs of the world. Many of our attendees here are maybe working towards or renewing their green building certifications. So how can property managers use nature-based solutions to align with frameworks like GRESB or WELL, for example? Christina, maybe you can kick us off this time.
Yeah, happy to. So yeah, a composting program can kind of support multiple parts of ESG frameworks, not just on waste diversion, but also on tenant engagement, health and wellness education, things like that. So for example, under GRESB and LEED, we've seen our partners report data on diversion volumes, participation rates as kind of part of their stakeholder engagement and waste indicators. In WELL, there's a focus on biophilic design, food nourishment, which composting connects to both by supporting better food systems and really giving tenants agency in waste reduction. And so for all those efforts, we offer tools to support certification documentation like live waste diversion dashboard, signage templates, sample engagement programming, really help teams kind of connect the operational activities that are happening on the ground to their ESG goals on paper.
Totally. Makes a lot of sense. And Anna, any thoughts on green building certification alignment?
Yeah. I mean, first off, it's so great to see the growing emphasis that's been placed on this and making our buildings thoughtful and intentional spaces. And kudos to any property managers that are taking the steps to get green building certifications. It shows that you're taking sustainability and well-being seriously. And the good news is, you know, like Christina just mentioned, there are a lot of points that you'll be eligible for with a nature-based solution, specifically with urban farming. All of the, so WELL, FitWell, LEED, all have points specifically about growing food locally with your property or your campus. There are also points that you would be eligible for by providing connections to nature and biophilia and having active building programs and, you know, the wellness that goes along with providing fresh vegetables. So in addition to that, there's also all of the points that you get for just having social programs as well. But it's, you know, it's great that these certifications are recognizing how important these amenities and these solutions are. And I'll just mention that if you are interested in pursuing one of these options, to let your nature-based solution provider know, because then we can make sure that you're meeting the correct requirements to get the points. But then we're also tracking the data and sharing that with you. And at Green City Growers, that's something we're very diligent about. Every week we're reporting back what is happening, and we're putting that into a nice year-end report for our customers. And this also transfers into great content and information to share with your entire building of how much food, how many pounds of food have you grown, and you know, what's been going on. So yeah, it's a nice way to get more recognition for the work you're doing.
Absolutely. Yeah, no, that makes a lot of sense, and similar to Alvéole. When it comes to certifications like GRESB, WELL, LEED, or FitWell, our program is a really smart and accessible way to align with multiple criteria, especially when it comes to biodiversity, occupant wellness, and stakeholder engagement. Similarly to what you had just mentioned, Anna, but we also make it easy for your teams in terms of, you'll receive a nature impact report, engagement stats, and high quality content, really things that you need to demonstrate sustainability performance to ownership, tenants, or investors. So it's not just a feel-good initiative. Nature-based amenities are a very practical tool to strengthen ESG outcomes and certification strategies across your portfolio. So excellent timing. We've just hit the 26-minute mark. Going to open it up to the audience. Please don't be shy. We're here to learn. So pop in any questions you have into the chat. And I personally am also curious, while folks are thinking about what they'd like to ask, what are the other kind of nature-based amenities that people in this audience have either heard of or implemented, just to get all the solutions out there while we have everyone together here. And while folks are doing that, I have a question here if points are also offered for the B program. I believe that would be us. Yes, certainly able to support any of the major green building certifications. We also have a document that kind of outlines specifically for which criteria in each green building certification, how many points you'll be able to earn towards that, and what about our program is helping you earn points towards each of those criteria. Okay, we have another question here for either Anna or Demi. Have you seen any unexpected tenant responses or stories that speak to the emotional or community impact of these initiatives?
I don't even know where to start. We have so many great stories constantly. Every week, our farmers actually do a show and tell where we're sharing all of these stories with each other. And, some of the ones I always like are stories about different tenants of the same commercial property getting to know each other. So people who work for completely different employers, building new connections with people in the office that they're now saying hi to when they're going into office in the morning. There's really, with the food aspect of it, there's a lot of recipe sharing that happens. From time to time, I'll hear a story about a really excited employee who actually took the harvest home, made a nice appetizer, and then brought it back to share with the people who were in the garden program. So, what's great is I think there's a lot of emotion that comes into gardening and really most things that are interacting with, nature and living amenities.
Yeah. I'm reminded of a story that I was told when I first started at Alvéole of a community in one of our office assets that we have a hive on. And when the queen bee passed away, they had a funeral for her, or like a ceremonial goodbye to their queen bee. And I just think that speaks volumes to how connected a community and unseemingly, unexpected community can fall in love with something like a beekeeping program or a composting program or gardening. So I think that's awesome. And Demi, did you want to jump in with any kind of unexpected tenant responses or stories that speak to the emotional or community impact of composting?
Yeah, absolutely. The one example that really comes to mind is from one of our residential buildings, where I think the average age of our users is over 65. And so for them, and it's also one of our highest usage buildings, and the overwhelming comment and feedback we get from our users there is that it's helping them build a better future for their children and for their grandchildren. And so I think it's a really hands-on, tangible way that people can do to really feel like they're making an impact and a difference. And so while we kind of obviously know some of the environmental impacts of food waste, I think seeing it from, a different generational lens, trying to leave behind the world in a better place, makes kind of a lot of that work worth it.
Absolutely. And I think that's such a beautiful note. I was going to say to end on, but now we're getting more questions. People are popping in there. We are at the half-hour mark. So we'll be able to get back to these folks who have written out here. Separate to that, want to be respectful of everyone's time that they've given us today. But I personally am feeling super inspired and motivated by the solutions that both Christina and Anna have shared today, and the amazing work that's being done, and the fact that we have almost 100 attendees that have signed up for this webinar from all different types of functions, really, to me, signals that there's a shift in the mindset and the urgency of implementing these kind of solutions, both on a personal level, in a business level, and on a global level at the end of the day. So thank you so much again, Christina. Thank you so much, Anna, and to everyone who has joined us from all corners of the world today. Have a great day. We will have this recording sent to everyone who's registered if you didn't have a chance to catch it all. And yeah, please look out for your next nature-based solution. Have a great day, folks.
Thanks, everyone.
Bye.
Have a good one.
Thank you.